So thanks for spending Friday night. It's one of our rare Friday nights to do the lecture. And of course we have a special guest. A couple months ago I invited / demanded that Hitoshi give a lecture at the school. He's too polite and too humble to just sort of say, I'm going to get up and do a lecture. A lot of other deans and directors would have done many by now. Hitoshi's going to talk about a couple of recent projects. I do know that, and I think as regards a longer lecture about his body of work, I'm sure you should all know this work well by now if you're here at the school. And just by way of a brief introduction, both kind of personal and kind of cultural in a way, I met Hitoshi 25 years ago. I just moved to LA and I was teaching at SIA-Getz, and he was a grad student. A lot of Japanese students at the school at the time, and I had a couple, and two of them grabbed me and said, "You've got to come down and see this other Japanese guy. And he's crazy." And it was pretty true, because I walked up and the dude had a black helmet on. I mean, like a sphere. And it was a media project, and he had made this media helmet called the Black Sphere, and he pulled it off, and I met Hitoshi, and that was the very first time. And Wolf Pricks was a teacher, and he had Pricks, I think, for that semester and for thesis as well. This is late 80s at SIA-Getz, late 80s in LA, and people like Morphosis and Wolf came to open an office of Co-op Himmelblau. We know these figures, and especially Wolf represents, and if you saw him lecture here a couple of years ago, and heard Gimme Shelter again, and Jimi Hendrix, and all the Burning Wing stuff, that he's a guy from May '68 for which the rebellious spirit never dies. Now, I stopped this introduction a little bit because you've also heard Hitoshi say, maybe from time to time, and he does it in a very nice, self-deprecating way, like, I don't understand that, I'm just Japanese. And it's true, but for a few years he wasn't Japanese when he was at SIA-Getz and when he later worked for Co-op Himmelblau. And so from about 87 to 1992, before he won the competition for the Miyagi Stadium and went back to Sendai to practice until coming back here in 2007, his most intense sort of engagement with kind of Western ideas was through SIA-Getz, and in particular through Pricks, who became his mentor. And if you know Pricks's work, was about this kind of emotional avant-garde project, is and always will be, and that's not it's more a fact than a perception. And at the time he called his work open architecture, Wolf. And Hitoshi worked on the open house, is that right, in Malibu? So it was open architecture, open house, open politics. And yet the architecture that Himmelblau did was not closed, but it was definitely fixed in its posture. It wasn't, let's see what happens next, openness. It was, here's the work that's going to attack the closed politics around us so that we can open it up. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Hitoshi wins the stadium, goes back in 1992, and basically, from my point of view, from there on out, he takes the open architecture and the avant-garde version of open architecture, goes back and actually practices open architecture, meaning an architect who every time he goes to a site or to a project remained open, didn't have a political agenda to wield an aesthetic against, let's say, a conservative condition. That's more a Western European idea. And in fact, his Japaneseness, let's say, allowed open architecture to transform him into an open architect. So some people have argued the work is not signature based. It doesn't look the same every time. And in many respects, if you look at it and study it closely, there's always a kind of imprimatur, there's always a sensibility that comes through, but he's always been practicing open architecture as far as I'm concerned, and that's one of the great kind of lessons and power of what he's done. So we're going to see these new projects, and please welcome HItoshi Abe.
Thank you, Neil. I don't know what else I need to speak after your speech. Actually, I really hate speaking in front of you guys because then, I cannot say anything against you anymore. And but I thought I should do it because we just finished a couple projects, and maybe I need to start to talk about what I'm interested in front of you guys. So today I will just talk about this one story which we are kind of working on but not quite know what we are doing. And along with it, I'd like to introduce two of the projects just completed and also about to be finished. Just today, I just want to talk about the kind of situation that I'm interested in at the moment. And maybe you want to turn off the lights here. Place. I guess as an architect, we are dealing with this place. And it's a really complicated thing for me. And this is always sort of coming back, whatever we do, and whatever I wants to do. In Japanese, place is called basho, so that it consists with two Chinese characters. And I thought maybe this is by sort of to use this Japanese character is really helpful to kind of explain the issue I'm interested in. And ba and sho, right? And the sho actually there's two different meaning. Or the sort of a definition of place kind of coming together. Sho actually indicate where you are. It's always about you, and where you are is a location. On the other hand, ba actually indicate that the place itself. So it doesn't matter if you're there or if people are there. Sort of, let's say you can use this as place, this cafe, but also maybe there's like a place in the moon where nobody. Also, we could say kind of bar. So this notion of basho is obviously combined together, so the place and the location of the human or you are together actually creates a sort of notion of the place or placeness. But for many reasons, and also probably you know very well as well, that this kind of a place itself and also the location of the human started to be more separated. And now more and more in the contemporary society that this doesn't match anymore. So that you can be anywhere, maybe by using different kind of technology and so on, or the attachment of, or the function of the effectiveness of the place as a place to hold people together, or the capacity to create a place together with the people is kind of weakening and getting lost. But in my practice, for a while, actually, I was more interested in Bach, characteristic of Bach, so that how we actually create the kind of a sort of landscape that being more free from, free from some necessity of the human or some sort of a defined concept of room or the function. We thought that maybe those could be much more loose, and then providing a very strong form or the landscape, which is more sort of separated from sort of conventional notion of the function or the building or typology, can help to stimulate later the activity of people, and then they can just come in and inhabit it. So we are more interested in this found space so that we deal with this Bach, because in this process we didn't really sort of think about the sort of a place as where people are. It's more about actually the place itself. So these are, I still love this photo, but I have to say I took this from Flickr, and I think this was taken by one of the students from Columbia University, and I wrote him email saying, can I use it? And he said yes, as long as I mention about him at the lecture. But the problem is I can't really remember his name now, but this is by him. Of the, and the restaurant. So in this case, we try to kind of work or create sort of a building or the shape, pretty much sort of independent from the function. I hate to use the functionality, but some sort of typology or precedent or the conventions. We try to actually use its own sort of a logic within itself, and then try to inhabit all those places afterwards. But as we actually look more around, and we realize that there's a space of Bach, but also there's a space of show. Sorry, it's kind of confusing. A show, meaning place where you are. And we've been actually doing some study in a secret room over there with with Shannon and Andy and Scrap by funding by Daiwa Corporation. It's a research about actually we call it domesticity, and we are trying to see how actually the idea of domesticity is coming out from the actual domestic environment and then started to be spread around the entire sort of world. And this is interesting because that notion of domesticity is actually more related to show. It's about where you are, not about the place itself. So this is a famous actually a house by a Japanese company back in the 60s, and sphere, right, the bubble shape. And also, this is just a part of the research we're doing. This is a famous Edison house. It looks really different from this guy, but conceptually, this is casted by the concrete at once. So it's like ideally, it's very similar to the notion of the bubble. Or robo house, the entire sort of location is occupied by these small dwelling units, or of course for other things. Or nowadays, this sleep box at the airport that they started to place. So what's happening is now that this new kind of also space, more like connected to the idea of show, where you are, not necessarily about this particular unique location, is started to be spread. You can sleep in an airplane. All of a sudden, your workplace started to look like actually a house. All these things, of course, iPhone or Airbnb, that you can rent a space, in a very convenient way, or there's so much sort of a shared space, and then sort of a totally different type of space that we didn't have, which is more sort of non-place, and it's more actually related to the idea of show is coming in. And it looks like those are more sort of vital, and also it's started to get spread all over. Then my question is, though, then if there's any role of architect in this kind of idea of show, where actually, I have to say, as a designer, maybe I like more art. There's so much fun we could play, and so much sort of interesting object we could create. And when we try to create something under the name of under the concept show, it seems things are much harder. But also, we are more exposed to this kind of idea, and then we see this more realistic. I mean, for instance, many of this social media is actually connected to this idea, so that where you are is the location, and if you could, this one free us from the particular physical location, and then if you actually use other devices to identify where you are, then it doesn't matter if you're in a physical space or virtual spaces. And I'm very much actually interested in where this kind of notion takes us to, or how actually this, shall we bar and show be together again, or shall we just let them kind of separate and pursue things separately. Today I'm going to show two projects. One is this interior design of the 3M Corporation, and also the other one is the university building for University of Vienna. And I'm not, how to say, I try to actually explain about these projects along with this sort of idea of bar and show, but most likely I'm kind of interested in how this sort of a place and the notion of show can actually be, I don't know, I'm not trying to utilize it. I'm kind of struggling, trying to see if there's any sort of possibility for us to pursue that. And let's begin. This is a headquarters for 3M. It's a global headquarters located in central Minnesota. And it's a part of this big campus. And it consists with 5 buildings surrounding parking lot in the middle. And they are all connected by sky bridge on the second level. And I have to say, it's not so interesting building. And it was actually designed by L.B. and Beckett back in the 70s. And then they built this one first, and then they actually build or add other buildings as they get bigger, and then finally they have huge campus. The characteristic of this campus is like the other office building back in the 70s, that everybody has this kind of a separate office unit and very segmented, and each departments are also isolated from each other. And as you can see, also there's not much connection between or among these buildings. But and then everything was like a beige and moss green, And if you go there, the corridor is so dark, and so basically everybody's rushing to their own office to concentrate their own work. But it was kind of funny. 3M Corporation produces probably most interesting sort of innovative products, and Post-it is, I'm sure everybody has Post-it. And what's interesting things about Post-it is that created by mistake. Actually, initially they tried to make a glue, which is like strongest glue ever, but for some reason they made the weakest glue ever. But what's interesting about that is then somebody says, shit, I made a mistake, and this is like, doesn't work. It comes out. Then somebody in the other department, wait a minute, we are trying to create this, and then maybe we can use it. So this kind of collaboration between two disciplines or multiple disciplines and different departments actually created this Post-it, and they were very proud of this. So they are the company also who sets sort of a special, I think 15% of the time of the workers donated to this free research so that they can actually either collaborate or do something other than the work they are asked. So it was very surprising to see this very closed campus and a work environment, and also sort of the segmentation among these workers. This is isometric, and then blue part is what we did. This is LB Beckett main building. Initially, we were asked actually to design the entrance lobby and executive floor with Peter Abe actually. And when we went there, I saw those dark corridors and segmentation. So there's a huge gap between the corporate policy or the concept and the environment. So I talked to Peter, you take entrance and then executive floor. Let me just propose other idea, and if we don't get it, I don't blame you. You just take these projects, but if you get it, let me do it. So this is what we propose. The idea is basically to turn corridor and parking into the communication space. So we are very much interested in sort of transitional space, that the space that the people never stop, like just walking, passing by, and the space which connects one function to the others. So in this particular innovation, we just said, we don't touch your office. We will just touch only these sort of weird spaces, and then this should be the place for the communication. And so as you can see here, what we did was, this is a second floor sky bridge part, and then all these corridors. And then cafeteria, and also we created this kind of employee shopping mall, very small shopping area. And then some training spaces. So every function is hooked up along with this kind of a ring. Actually, every function meaning every kind of communication space. So in a way, what we are proposing is, let's actually not look into sort of a place like a bar. Let's look into more likely the spaces that usually people are just moving and don't recognize as a location, but try to find the kind of a location for the people moving around. So this is an employee entrance, and I cannot show you how it was before, but maybe you don't want to see it anyway. And this is how, basically what we did is we smoothed out, and we tried to connect also different functions as much as possible, so that we can really create the circuit, so that everybody will move one, sort of can move smoothly from one function to the other, And then also we placed lots of sort of lounge spaces, so that everything is sort of access to somewhere. And then there's a lounges where some kind of a open space exists. And basically that's it. So we try to make some space as kind of smooth as possible, so that the sort of expression, the flow is there. And also I will talk about this, but we try to use the material from 3M as much as possible, because they said it's going to be free. So I said, okay, that's good. And they have also amazing material. So we place these lounges everywhere, like this. And of course, we use the color 3M. So, we use different techniques of the soffits and the lightings, and differentiating some area without creating wall by having these contrasted sort of finishes. So you feel this is differentiated from this area. So in a way, constant flow with some articulation is a kind of space that we are trying to push. So new stair is created, and we needed to create 2 pair of the stair. Here, painted in black. By the way, maybe I should talk about it's a side story. I'm familiar with the construction in Japan, and my contractor is my friend, right? That kind of relationship. So it was so hard to work in the United States, working with an American contractor who are very mean and I'm sorry, maybe they're saying me evil and horrible, but this stair, which I thought very simple, I made it very simple. But if you look at it, it's a very simple stair. The idea is there's a structure in the middle, sort of folded plane, and everything can deliver from there. But they actually asked just the steel guy who are not specialized in this kind of steel work, but the guys who really do the main structural steel work to fabricate this. So I was like shocked, and I learned also that now in a sort of a contemporary global architectural field, that the many work is very much segmented. So you are architect, and I had of course executive architect, and then the construction manager and the subcontractors and so on. So in a way, it's very difficult to maintain the seamless communication like I used to have in Japan. So I really realized that I should really appreciate those in Japan for actually supporting me and covering my ass. Because here, you have to really make sure that you are actually giving every sort of instruction, and also otherwise they're going to charge you. And I'm sure you know all of this, but I didn't. And others there, which is reversed, so the skin is coming outside and it's structured. And they have this. And again, they create the interesting films and all those things, and they always sponsor NASCAR. So this is a shopping mall area. But most interesting things to me in this project was the hub, communication hub that we created. This is actually kind of hybrid of the lounge, workspace, and a cafeteria. Mostly like this. So it has a small touchdown office space, and then sort of a touchscreen collaborated table, and then some kind of lounge with some kind of a information software hanging. And it's always placed by the corridor where people pass by, just outside of the entrance to each department. And this one basically kind of provide many information about what the company is doing right now, but also it's just a nice place to have a casual meetings or to have a coffee or to chat or to meet people. So this is a soffit, and then this is a work table. So in the soffit, actually, there's a newly developed software showing what's going on with the company in the different locations, and also these are messages from all the workers. So basically, you can send out your message to everybody asking, like, I have a dog now. My dog has a baby, so I'm looking for a name, like is Arthur or Frank is better, or blah, blah, blah. So there's a constant sort of communications happening, and as well as also this kind of a touch screen work table, which is also kind of, so when you touch it, your work table shows up, and then you can actually dig into your information by using password, and then you can share it like this. And you can tell these guys doesn't know what to do. So this is something that you cannot do with your laptop because in this one you are sharing sort of a table, one surface together, so that you can physically kind of work. And what's interesting here is, though, of course, this is a place in between work and the break. And also, you don't have to work there, but also maybe it's an interesting location to work. So the definition of the place itself is very loose and sort of flexible. And it's created almost like to destroy the given sort of structure or organization of the sort of existing environment. And also, actually this is a location, this tarmac is a location of different communication hub. And also what's interesting is this possibility of sort of a hybridization of digital technology into the physical environment. So that, of course, it looks a little bit, how to say, Toys R Us-ish. So that I'm not really sure if this will change much. But it's really different from the cell phone that you have. It's more presented as a digital device for the collaboration. And we try to tie sort of the kind of an information environment which is more connected to the notion of show, if you remember show, okay? And tie with the notion of the bar. So where you are maybe connected to that placeness again a little bit. And through this, actually, this place is connected to a different location, a different place of the 3M offices around the world. And different colored, how do you call that, communication hub. So this is blue. I have to admit that it's a little bit like a Star Trek, but well, I like Star Trek. So and at least what's happening is now that many people who used to be in the office is getting out because we didn't touch the office. So the juxtaposition between old office and this one is so funny, so big, so that you feel like time warp from 70 to 2000 at least. I and also just these spaces are more open and probably much more bright, obviously. To be honest with you, the problem of this kind of thing is actually how you can actually give literacy to use this technology to the older workers. That this interface that created by this company in Germany, GTG, is great, and then basically it should work like an iPhone. Even these guys created the sort of iPhone post-it, so that you can do something on iPhone and then you do it to the screen like that, then you'll be pinned up. So there's lots of sort of challenge trying to interface the physical sort of a gesture to the digital sort of environment, and trying to actually create this sort of a place under the notion of show, and also it could be the big failure that we will see in maybe next 6 months. So we looks kind of the same anyway. But also, we actually try to put a different strategy. This is also one of the sections where lots of training room exists. And in this particular area, we try to somehow sort of overlap or set the different function right next to each other, so that the different sort of function can overlap, and it creates the sort of opportunity for different kind of people or different kind of activity to interact with each other. This is I forgot hub 5 or something, and there's a lounge. There's a lounge and the cafeterias. So this is a cafeteria. This is a sort of a lecture hall surrounded by the glass forum, and this wall is used as a gallery, and there's a lot of training room and a lounge. And by sort of setting this kind of different functions right next to each other, and then try to keep it open, then sort of more what you are doing creates the sort of characteristic of the location, and sort of a conflict or interaction of different sort of activities generates the sort of atmosphere of the place. And lastly, we turned the parking into Plaza. And we didn't have much of the budget. That's an excuse always we say, but yes, we had $27 per square foot to do entire parking, and including also the recording the whole area. So it was very important to turn this into some sort of a plaza, because this is where everybody's looking at. But also because we didn't have a budget, always the idea is, okay, let's use 3M material because it's free. And what we did was, this is a famous 3M traffic thing, very durable, last 10 years on the road, and last 20 years, and then guaranteed for 10 years. So we just simply took this and then created the kind of a pattern digitally, so that we don't waste material, and then created these sort of a finish. And what was interesting about also this project is, again, this use of 3M material. So we use epoxy floor. They had a very interesting sheet of LED that we could actually glue directly onto the ceiling, so you don't need any room or space underneath to have this kind of artificial lighting system you see. And also simply, they didn't make a carpet, but we need a carpet. And we found out they are creating doormat. So entire black carpet looking like finish is actually doormat. So the whole area is kind of a nice doormat. So wherever you walk, your shoes will be always clean. And again, so it gets really dark very early in Minnesota. So this is when you leave the office. You will see this. And when you also come in the morning, you most likely you have a scene like this. So what's interesting in this project for us is, again, somehow we focused on this transitional space that usually you don't look at, and then try to see people. So we try to design the place not to stay. It's a place to be passed by, and then also that they're trying to combine also the digital technology there, and we need to really look into what's really happening. Maybe this will be like a totally sort of forgotten space and nobody uses, but so far it's kind of working, and I'm looking forward to see actually what's going to happen in the next 6 months. This is Vienna, and it was a competition, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 building was built at once. And this is a library by A.UD. This is a lecture hall complex by Prosthetics architect. And then this is a little sort of guest research lab by Nomad from Madrid. And then 3 building, a departmental building by Kanno and Peter Cook, and this is what we did. And it's quite big. It's 200,000 square foot. And the mission is to create a 5-department building, but also like gymnasiums and the student union, and then what was that? Seminars rooms, and then kindergarten, beer garden, supermarket, and bookstore. So it's a mixture of different things. So idea here is, again, let's do the building not as a volume, but the accumulation of the thin layers of the rooms. So basically, it looks like a kind of pie, a volume pie or food. It's like this. Again, what we try to do is to, it's kind of funny, that again, we try to avoid some sort of a place as a destination. I don't know how to say. We were trying to create a space as more likely some kind of a boundary, so that it's, maybe this is easy to explain, so that because everything is consists with the thin layers, so we try to create a boundary of the plaza. And then the next one is maybe this is a boundary of the plaza, and then another boundary here and there. So somehow the whole building is created as accumulation of the boundary of the different functions. And of course, boundary itself contains certain kind of function. And the design focus became how to kind of create the relationship of these layers, and rather than trying to define the place itself. So, and similar to the Atelier project, so that the things that I spend most of the time is how to create this kind of a layer of different functions by solving the actual requirement to win a competition course. And that's how we actually organized it. So initially, idea was that everything will be transparent, and the only differences are the actually how the different relationship of the sort of a given space are organized. So we thought maybe what people are doing or what they are actually, how they are gathering really creates the uniqueness of each location and how they are related. Really generate a different density of each area and a different ambient, so that this kind of being there will create the place, will become the place. And of course, because of the budget reason, we couldn't use glasses at all. And also, so that the facade became like this. So it gained more physicality, actually. And it's amazing, actually. So many people in Vienna hates glasses. I thought so many glass building in Vienna, but I was surprised that many professors in Vienna hated it. And that therefore, we have this punch window. But what's interesting things though, still the facade as a medium somehow to transit what's inside to outside remain, and it becomes more like a geometrical treatment. So these patterns are actually responding to the size of the window, and because each office had to be exactly the same, we thought maybe the shape of the window should be different to give different ambient, and then the size of the window is actually reflected to create a certain pattern of the facade. I don't know, we did so much study on how the facade should be, but now, I forgot which one is the one But it's like a little bit like a snake skin, right? The different scales, but as the surface moves, then the pattern will be different. Very simple building, very simple structure. As you can see, still under construction. This is an entrance, and this is an area looking up, and ground floor. And these are the entrances to the seminar rooms. Library, very small library. We actually give the color of black and white to each layer to emphasize this layering effect. And also, actually, I will explain to you why it's black. But again, black caused so much trouble to us. I realized that everybody hates black room. I don't know if you guys hate black room, but most of the people really hated this black lounge. But the idea is that if you have a black, and then this is a window to the forest, very famous forest, Plaza in Vienna. And by doing this, actually the window can bring the forest into the room much closer. So it's not only emphasizing this layering effect, but also in this way, you can really kind of emphasize the effect of layering different sort of scenery together. So I thought it's nice. And then going upstairs. Upstairs, as you can see, the whole building is like a snake, maybe which swallows some rat or some object. So it gets fatter or narrower as you move, and it creates different scene. And if you go across the different layer, then you will encounter dark, narrow space, and then get into this kind of space again. And so, I mean, it's pretty much kind of keep going this way. But we inserted the stair here in the middle, and it's of course some place for the reaching out to the different floor. But actually, we set it this place as a place for communication, to just sit there, to talk to each other. And again, my focus in this design is this kind of transitional space. Sometimes it gets really narrow. Stairs are very important. course, they have to have a ping pong table. And lounge. Again, I mean, for the university, what I really pushed is that we should not really keep these doors closed. I really wanted to have all of these glasses, so that sort of a physicality disappears, and then the way people are actually sort of behaving will be exposed, and then the relationship of the behavior, relationship of the activity will define the place. But again, for many reasons, but mostly the political and economical reason, that the whole place regained the physicality, and this is a result. And actually, I enjoy it also. And as you can see, we call it pinch. These linear sort of a treatment of the corridor and the atriums are not just parallel, but we pinched it. So there's some area really narrow, some area is really wide, so there's articulated spaces, but also it creates this kind of shift. So this shift helps sort of people to look into each other, to relate to each other. And also that was, actually this went kind of quite well. So you can see how the shift is happening. Yes. So, basho. I really don't know if this basho should come together, or if this is already so separated forever, or maybe we should just concentrate on doing ba, so that then, as we all know that even though we just create this weird space, if it's given to human, we will find a way to inhabit it. But also this weird things, the show, meaning that there's no particular place fixed, and you can actually turn any place show because you are there. And how, if there's any way to design something related to that. Or we should say where you are should come together with unique location. And I really don't know, but this is something that I'm interested in at this moment. And I actually, we are continuing this research with Daiwa, and I guess actually Randy and Shannon said we should say we will doing advanced topic studio so next quarter, so please come to join us. Thank you.
Questions for Hitoshi? Any questions?
Vienna is not Viennese people are not very transparent. So going into that, I knew they would veto this.
It was a good idea, but also kind of expensive too. Scary, nobody asks questions.
Actually, I don't need the microphone, but I had a question just about the place, and I wonder if the places that you create or are so singular about where you are. I wonder if it would drift into placelessness, and I wonder like where that line is. If you can experience something like this Sleep Box, if you're in Vienna or New York or Los Angeles or Tokyo, how do we wrestle with that? Still creating unique places in the space of individual. But does that make sense? So it's like, so if we have place and like places based on like an experience of where you are, and I wonder if it drifts into this idea of like not having any unique place based on a specific location.
The problem is, again, that location itself, the importance of this particular location will be meaningless if actually this location moves with you. You know what I mean? So what are we gonna solve this problem with? Was the question. And also what do you mean actually if the place is moving with you? That means you are actually dealing with architectural issue maybe. If that or maybe it's architectural. I don't really know. Do you? It's interesting, but also there are actually. It's kind of funny that there is, as we look into this experimental work, even starting from the beginning of the 20th century, many of them is actually attacking this sort of aspect of architecture being fixed into the one location. It's idea of how to actually sort of habitate the entire kind of environment. Well, how do we do that? And then it was kind of I see that it's not a new issue. It's still it's an old issue, but it's getting more and more sort of apparent. I mean, I was actually listening to radio that the lady who was caught by police because she was wearing Google Glass, and she was saying, "I was not turning it on. I was just wearing it." Right. So this is really now coming, and if driverless car, right? So it means you don't have to drive, and that's gonna be your room. What you gonna do? There. I'm so curious about this issue, but also again, I cannot answer to you. I'm sorry. It's Mr. Orange.
Formerly, the two projects really sort of, I'm just making a very
sure, please.
Primitive observations, but it's very, you were next to Zaha, and it reminded me of Neil's smooth work and Zaha's lines in a way. So it's, and then you didn't use any orange, so you don't love me anymore. No, but what is that direction say? Is it about, like when you talk about place, is it, because the science fiction of this kind of formalism is of no place or universal space, in that sense, the whiteness, the kind of futuristic, smooth directionality.
I have to say though,
it's to me a little bit kind of interesting that you went into this direction, knowing your previous work.
But one, I have to say though, the work outside of Japan put me in a situation to really understand that how the global production system works. For the case of Vienna, there is absolutely no way to do raw finish concrete. And also there's most of the building, okay, Peter Cook's Carmen Pinoche looks different, but it's all same, including ours. Because what it is that it's a concrete structure, flat slab with a beam, with a column, and then the insulation outside, and then wrapped with some foam something. That's like absolutely no sort of option, even though it's not our decision or they are forcing us. It's a budget constraint, and also how the design mechanism works. It's too risky to cut the edge. So in a way, I could have chosen like a red or orange surface, okay? But basically, there's a certain kind of vocabulary that works much more easily in this global context, which exists. And then, of course, if you are Peter Zumto, maybe you can push that, but that's creating, of course, many budget. So, but in this particular project, there's a certain sort of a palette limited palette that we were asked to do, and also the 3M things. I just use the 3M product and drywall, the epoxy floor, and then doormat, and then Dynox sheet, and that was probably the best expression to push them to the edge. So I don't know. Like I think I should go back to what Neil said at the beginning. I don't really push particular sort of formal language, but I'm more interested in somehow, I think I keep saying it, sort of reflecting how we can actually sort of create the building which reflects the conditions of the project itself, and how you actually turn the building into some kind of a log of the dialogue with the project and myself. And it's been same. I mean, all the project I'm doing is very same, and for that sense. But what comes out is always different. And I don't know. I could say in a nice way because all the project is different, or maybe I easily get tired and I want to do something else. Or I easily get influenced by somebody. I don't know. But that's what it is. Yes, sir.
But I think the material qualities, I think, are very interesting in the context of all your work. How important the material language is to develop a spatial language. But apart from that, I'm wondering how much the same is the university campus project and its sociality and the corporate campus project and its sociality. And what I found very consistent is these ideas of swollen corridors, lounges, and places, and one for a college campus and one for a corporate campus, and how the technology kind of seems to work in both. So do you see those two things starting to come together?
I have to say that I didn't think too much, honestly, the differences between these two, except that maybe the sort of particularity of the requirements of that particular project. I didn't really sort of compare university building versus the office building. It was more about 3M and DU, you know what I mean? And maybe the differences between these two, to me, is that somehow university building, we didn't have any contact to the user itself. Versus the 3M, it was a huge group, the user group that we had to kind of interact with. Maybe that, but I mean, in a way, I really admit that it's a very similar kind of the issue that we dealt with. I don't know how do you think? I think it's very similar. and I remember the conversation at Brain Trust that Tom said to Frank, you were the sort of the biggest negotiator, wasn't Tom? Remember that? Negotiator or sort of, I don't know, I mean, as you all know that the project is alive, and sometimes that's the reason why we became suspicious figure, right? That sounds like we are the guys who always make compromises, but sometimes it's interesting to kind of be involved in the project and kind of dive within it, and that's what happened. So it was kind of sort of yeah. There are lots of politics around it, yes. But, some you have to kind of have a fun with it. Yes.
Have you been able to maintain a relationship to where you can maintain quality control in the future, or is it going to be like most architects in terms of consistency?
But actually, there are many people trying to kind of control it, like, for instance, from Gary, all these kind of BIM building information modeling, and all those are sort of, I see that that's a challenge, right? Trying to keep the control. This is an interesting story. When I came here, I realized that the BIM is very big. So I went back to Japan. When I go there, I talked to the largest, sort of best sort of construction companies, bragging about BIM, and you should do it. This is the future, blah, blah, blah. So they invested a lot trying to do this for the past 5 years. And they came to say it's not going to work. It's not going to work. What happened was that they have such a perfect system within itself, and then BIM has more open-ended, and it's already the system kind of developed somewhere else. So it's like, remember the Beta and VHS? It didn't really work as a format, because in Japan, everybody speaks same languages, and also the sort of a contractor shares education with the architect. So they are kind of buddies. So within that, they have much more smooth communication and a unique way to maintain the quality of it. So once the BIM comes in, that the BIM is a language that the people who doesn't have a same background, people has a different cultural background, and it didn't work out. But the fear I think Japan should have is maybe this is a losing battle, like a better loss against VHS. Even better was quality-wise better, because it doesn't have this sort of a general sort of a capability to be connected, and then so that even we complain about American or European system, probably that sort of format will take over and kick out the craftsmanship or something kind of sort of a methodology which is very common in Japan.
Isn't it also a question of scale? Because I mean, these two projects, you're spreading the budget over large areas. Whereas in a kind of object, smaller scale, things you can concentrate on various different modes of expression much more. But it seems to me that all these mega projects now, you're going for a sort of one figure, and then that recipe has to go be tracked through the whole project, because there's no other way to do it. I mean, in the 50s, we had repetition as a symbol of, well, it's good design, or minimalism, or something like that. But now, these projects become almost to be like a recipe, a graphic recipe, like you spread the peanut butter very thinly over the whole bread, whether they're chunky and chunky.
It's not the question, right?
It is an observation.
Well, I guess.
But how do you deal with scale? Because like you said, these are
just finished I didn't show the similar size building in Japan, but I didn't do much. So I think scale doesn't much matter actually. Stadium, house, whatever. I mean, I'm the one of the probably very few here who experienced large project, not mega. And nowadays mega is mega, but the large one to super small house which you can fit somewhere around here. But scale never been the issue for me at least. I mean, I don't get the question right. So it enjoys it. Small is actually fine. You should try one.
Where I'm I never thought that she was that somehow getting from A to B is your project, at least these two projects.
Not only that, actually, I'm probably not active.
Picketing and mischievously confounding some of the, let's say, rubrics of efficiency, how efficient a building is, basically minimizing circulation. We're choosing that to be the project. So that's
Observation.
well,
I mean, this is from now this way. It's a tomographic section. And this is also the tomographic section going this way.
yeah, but the actual configuration of Carmen, the way you've shown us today, so much so that the body is almost concentric. It seems to be new square. I really like what I said with the arguments where you go from 2.5 feet to 13 to actually start with something more.
Thank you. So I don't want to keep you guys here for a long time. It's been a long week for everybody, I'm sure, and I really appreciate that you came, and thank you.